Well, the person trying to talk sense to the protesters in that video is the very brave Joseph Cohen. He's the founder of the Israel advocacy movement, and he joins us now. Joseph, thank you for being with us. It will be news to the IDF that they're funded by Zara.
A big surprise. Actually, it was a big surprise to most of the shoppers as well. And truthfully, half of the protesters themselves, they all gave different explanations as to why they were there, and none of their stories lined up.
Well, I mean, we're laughing because it's so ridiculous, but I mean, this is actually very scary, isn't it? You've been doing this for years now, challenging anti-Semites, anti-Israel protesters, you know, sometimes at great risk to your own safety. We saw the guy there trying to grab your camera. Since October 7th, the anti-Semitism seems to be going completely off the scale. I mean, do you feel that it's becoming more dangerous in the UK?
Unquestionably. So I don't know of a Jewish family here that hasn't had discussions around the future of Jews in this country. Anti-Semitism, according to police reports, which are far more conservative than NGOs, they've reported a 775% increase in anti-Semitic incidents. So there is no question that anti-Semitism was on the rise. And while we can laugh at those protesters and the ignorance of their lack of knowledge as to why they're there, underpinning that is actual hardcore old-fashioned anti-Semitism, a belief that Jews wield such control over major corporations that they can use these corporations like Zara, a fashion brand, to advance Zionism. So yes, anti-Semitism is on the rise. What we just witnessed there was anti-Semitism, and the future is very uncertain for Jews in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've seen you get into these debates with, you know, very violent Islamists, but part of the reason your advocacy is so effective, you do stay calm. And clearly, you not only know your Judaism, you also know a great deal about Islam. I've seen you shame some of these protesters by actually quoting Islamic teachings back at them. How did you become so knowledgeable about Islam and your own faith as well?
So I actually came to Hasbara and Jewish rights campaigning through interfaith. I started building bridges with Muslims to try and encourage tolerance within both communities of each other. And that introduced me to the Muslim community. I studied their scripture, the Hadith, the Quran at great length. And I used that knowledge to try and build relationships with Muslims that can be allies to the Jewish people and the Jewish state, to try and turn hostile people into friends. And the content that I create has now reached millions of people every single month, and the overwhelming majority of them are actually Muslims. So it's going relatively well. We are winning over large numbers of Muslims to Israel's right to exist, and to the Jews being a friend rather than an unknown enemy, which is the case in most of these conversations.
That's really good to hear. I mean, lately, though, in the UK especially, we've seen a lot of Islamists, you know, people who either deny outright or try and justify the Hamas massacres, coming on pretty well-known TV shows. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. You know, some of them have really extreme views. Do you think it's better for these people to be platformed and let the British people hear them, or do you find this upsetting?
I actually think there's something more sinister going on there. What we're finding is major personalities effectively trading in the dead, trading in dead Israelis, dead Palestinians for views. They will host prominent Islamists and then boast of their ratings. And it creates this vicious cycle that the more of a platform they give these people, the more views it brings them, and the more it just feeds this cycle of demonization. And so it's very concerning that hardcore voices from the Islamist side are being platformed on many major networks and channels.
Yeah, it's all about the ratings, isn't it, sadly? And do you think that the British police and the authorities are doing enough to keep Jews safe? And do you think the UK is a safe place for Jews?
The police are completely out of their depth. I've watched protesters chanting Khaybar Khaybar Ya Yahud Jash Muhammad Sayyid, a genocidal chant in front of them, and they're completely oblivious as to what is being said. I've seen the police online defend someone screaming, "May Allah curse the Jews," and screaming the Islamic State while holding the black standard, which was the Al-Qaeda flag. And the police came to this person's defense and declared that the black standard is the Al-Qaeda flag was just a declaration of faith. It was just the Shahada. So we have the police are completely unable to recognize the jihadi threat that's coming from communities within the UK. And that is what is making the Jews incredibly vulnerable. I don't think the Jews are safe in the UK. And I think they're becoming increasingly less safe as the days tick on.
Well, there's always a home for British Jews here in Israel. Joseph Cohen, keep up the good work. Great to talk to you. Thank you very much.